Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the 31st session of Council this Monday, June 22nd. And Council has been in closed session for the previous hour. So we're recalling the meeting to order. It is 7 p.m. And welcome all attendees, all members of Council. I make note that we have absences tonight for Councillor Parks and Councillor Gordon. With that, we shall start our session of Council. As noted, we have been in closed session, and the Horizon Report, in the continuing interest of transparency and open government, I'm reporting that in closed session, we adopted the minutes of the June 8th, 2020 closed session meeting, provided direction to staff with regards to a client solicitor privileged issue, and provided direction with regard to a personnel matter. And moving on in our agenda, we have no open forum this evening. And again, if anyone wishes to address council, please contact the clerk to arrange such a contact. We have no public meetings or notices of public meetings, so we move to the confirmation of the agenda. Right. We have the agenda before us. Are there any edits to that agenda, amendments to the agenda? Seeing none, right, I will ask for a motion to approve the agenda as Councillor Townend, second by Councillor Porter. And Councillor Budrick, are you able to turn your video on? Thank you.
I had to pick up a pen and start to write with.
Thank you. We have a motion to adopt the agenda. Right. I'll call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you. Is there any declaration of pecuniary interest in the general nature thereof? Seeing none, we move forward to the minutes, the confirmation of the minutes of the 30th session of Council, June 8th. We have the minutes before us. Are there any noted errors or omissions within those minutes? And the clerk, go ahead.
Might echo. Your worship, there was a change in regards to the recorded vote on the draft minutes. So that change has been made and will be reflected in the permanent. So it was just flipped in regards to the recorded vote under motion lost and motion carried.
Thank you. But the result that the motion carried, the motion that was carried is accurate, correct?
Yes, the recorded vote was a motion lost, and then there was no recorded vote on the carried motion.
Thank you. With that amendment, I'll look for a motion to approve the minutes. And Councillor Porter, second by Deputy Mayor. Right, call the question. All those in favor? None opposed. Motion is carried. Thank you. Up next is delegations and presentations. We have a presentation from our engineering manager and project coordinator. I believe they're in the audience and coming forward. Ms. Campbell and Mr. Mazzarani, are you here? I don't see them quite yet. There's Ms. Campbell. And welcome, Ms. Campbell. Is Mr.
Hello.
Mazzarani joining us as well?
He is not. I am on my own tonight.
Okay, and thank you very much. I understand you have a presentation for us.
I do, Your Worship.
And I believe the clerk's working on the shared screen process. Thank you. It's coming. There we are. And go ahead, Ms. Campbell.
Okay, thank you, Your Worship, and hello to members of council and anyone else watching. watching. I'm excited to give you an update on our Climate Action Plan initiative and to discuss some of the work that's been planned and undertaken to date. We've got a great team working on this project. So if we can just go to the next slide, I'll give you an outline of what I will discuss this evening.
There we go.
Okay, so just give a background and current status update, and then discuss our corporate emissions and community emissions, both from the work that we've done to date and the path forward. And then we'll talk briefly about how council can help to support this work. Next slide, please. So Loyalist Township enrolled in FCM's Partners for Climate Protection program in late 2017. There are 5 milestones for each of the corporate and community greenhouse gas reduction streams. And the plan is to have the work complete, the 5 milestones complete within 10 years of joining. So this project has a line of sight with a number of existing corporate plans and a symbiotic relationship with some of them. So for the strategic plan, it meshes well with the strategic objective to be a municipal leader in climate action and environmental stewardship. For the asset management plan, there are requirements for climate change mitigation and adaptation in the work that we do through our asset management plan. And in the infrastructure master plan, the evaluation of projects will include climate change mitigation and adaptation criteria. It's important to note that climate action projects often have very reasonable payback periods and are generally fiscally prudent, as well as important for demonstrating corporate social responsibility. And so I encourage council to consider a variety of revenue sources that are available for this work as we move forward through the plan. Next slide, please. Thank you. So the current status is that for corporate emissions, we've completed milestones 1 and 2, and we're in progress on milestone 3, which we expect to have complete by the end of the year. And for the community emissions, we have milestone 1 in progress, and milestones 2 and 3 are expected to be complete by the end of the year. An interesting fact that Loyalist Township's corporate hydro, natural gas, and fuel costs averaged nearly $2 million annually between 2015 and 2017. So we've made lots of progress on a bunch of things since October of last year, when you last heard about the project. And we have some great teams in place to work on both the corporate and community pieces. Next slide, please. Just a refresher on the corporate emissions. So the 49% reduction from 2016 levels by 2031 was set in 2019, and this represents a reduction of 3,660 tons of CO2 equivalent in 2031 as compared to the business as usual scenario, aka do nothing. Next slide, please. So the path forward for corporate emissions, we have a steering committee that's been put together with representation from all departments acting as champions for the various departments, and feedback will be sought from all staff. There are a number of climate action opportunities and ideas that we're considering, and we're looking at 3 different types of projects. So consideration during infrastructure renewal projects. An example of that is the blowers at the Bath sewage treatment plant are coming due for replacement. So we're looking at replacing those with more efficient equipment and looking at adding dissolved oxygen monitoring so that we make sure that we're only running that equipment as much as we need to provide the correct amount of dissolved oxygen needed for the treatment process. Larger capital projects, we can add climate action initiatives to those. So an example of that is with the Roads Garage expansion project, we're looking at improving the structural capacity of the roof to eventually house photovoltaics in the future and what that would cost. For focused projects, an example of that is the streetlight replacement that was done in 2018, where we replaced all of the existing streetlights with LED streetlights. The engineering division supports this project or this program, sorry, by providing research and cost benefit analyses for climate action opportunities, for developing the climate action plan and putting the report together, and by assisting with the implementation of projects and providing ongoing analysis, monitoring, and reporting of results. Next slide, please. So for the community emissions, to date, the technical work has been focused on the inventory and forecast, and those are generally complete. We're just working with some of the larger generators in the community to understand their plans and work this into our community plan moving forward. The reduction targets will be brought to council later this year, but we plan on doing a great deal of consultation with residents, community groups, and other businesses in order to put these targets together. And just a note that the community targets will likely be far less aggressive than the corporate target. The community engagement and marketing team, we've been lucky to have some funding to bring Dan Hendry on board to assist us, and fortunate to have Hillary working with us currently to assist this project and develop this strategy and reach out to community stakeholders. And this work is being planned from July until December of this year. Next slide, please. So the path forward for community emissions, we have the community engagement and marketing campaign planned, which is a bottom-up approach where we plan to gather feedback on the reduction targets and potential initiatives and work those into our climate action planning. And we'll do this through engaging the community and empowering involvement through consultation for larger projects which could be implemented in the community. So we plan an information blitz with council's blessing for July, where we want to get residents and other stakeholders excited about climate action, and we plan to do this by engaging younger residents through virtual camp content and others through a variety of different media, messaging through a variety of different media forms as listed in the slide. And we've already had some great buy-in to this from some of our partners for this work. Next slide, please. So this project represents an opportunity to cultivate environmental, social, and economic sustainability within the community. As a result, the term Resilient Loyalist Township has been chosen to represent the initiative, and the following visual identity in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen is planned to be used in all communications related to the project. We've also included an example of our influencer stories that we're planning to use in our information blitz in July of this year, where we plan to highlight stories from township residents, businesses, councillors, and staff about what they are doing to contribute to climate action within Loyalist Township. So we also plan to provide in this information blitz information about how people can participate, ideas for people to reduce their emissions, and information about the township's corporate efforts. And as I said previously, this is planned to continue into December of this year, when we will have our climate action plan developed. Next slide, please. So how can council support this work? So we're hoping, as outlined in the report, that you are wanting to nominate a council representative to sit on our climate action steering committee. We're also hoping that you will participate by suggesting climate action projects and initiatives and supporting those endeavors, and that you will share information with us for our information blitz if you're aware of businesses or individuals in the township who are doing great things to reduce their greenhouse gas emissions, and that you'll support our information blitz that we have planned, and mostly that you're excited to be resilient. And I'm happy to answer any questions, or if you want any other information, happy to provide that as well.
Thank you very much, Ms. Campbell. Council, I'll entertain questions with regard to the report and the project information so far. Then I would look for, and I'd like you to think about this while we're entertaining those questions, look for people to put their name forward if they are interested in, express their interest in sitting on such a committee. And only after that will I look for a motion to indicate that from council. So first off, questions. And any questions with regard to the report and the actions that are planned? Anybody? Very good report, no questions. And then my next question will be to council will be, is there anyone who is interested in stepping forward to participate in that climate action committee? I think we can start with Councillor Townend and has expressed interest. Are there any other members present who are interested in stepping into such a committee?
I would be available when Nathan isn't, if that's an issue. I'll be. Yeah.
Councillor Buderick is offering to be an alternate. And anyone else? And seeing none, the final statement would be a motion from council to receive for information the project report and acknowledge that we are interested, I'm assuming, in creating such or participating in such a committee and nominating Councillor Buderick or Councillor Townend to that role. And Councillor Porter, you're so moving. Thank you. Do I have a seconder for that? Councillor Buderick. And Councillor Porter, any comment?
No.
And Councillor Buderick? No. Anyone else? And Councillor Townend?
Yeah, I just want to extend my my thanks to Jenna and Rami for their work on the presentation and the report. There can for sure be absolutely no doubt about the vital and important work of reducing greenhouse gas emissions and transitioning human civilization towards a mutually enhancing presence within the natural world. And the question of if, when, and how the global community arrives at the target reductions necessary to maintain global temperature rise to at or below 2 degrees C can no longer be debated from a sedentary position. The evidence of the projected consequences of inaction are unfathomable, and therefore we must do everything in our power to act quickly and effectively. The immediate and sweeping global response we've witnessed in the wake of COVID-19 has left little doubt that human collaboration across city limits, county lines, provincial, state, and national borders is possible. We can do this. Like many forms of civilizational change, political leadership is imperative at all levels of government. This report sets the stage for Loyalists to be the leader in this endeavor that we need it to be. It outlines an approach in Loyalists that recognizes the imperative need to hit the ground running now. Inevitably, new opportunities will continue to arrive to make it possible for us to exceed our targets, as we should want to do. Yet, though an optimistic and intrepid spirit is necessary to achieve our goals, so is a practical plan. This report recognizes that and references specific realizable target areas for shift change in our corporate operations. The report rightly establishes the necessary priority of the corporation leading from the front, and likewise that community participation needs to be carefully choreographed to ensure that everyone is on board, that everyone buys in, because everyone is needed. I'm extremely proud of the work of staff and the 2 staff named in this report in particular, and I look ahead with enthusiasm and anticipation.
Thank you, Councillor Townend, and I would echo the statement. I'm very proud of Loyalist Township in establishing these goals. 49% in 15 years is a very lofty and worthwhile goal, and I have no doubt that the participants in the committee, and with yourself included, we will work towards that goal in the best way possible. With that, back to the mover for final comment. No? Then I will call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you very much. Thank you, Ms. Campbell. And moving forward, we have nothing under unfinished business. Under the Office of the Chief Administrative Officer, we have a report regarding the appointment of the Deputy CAO. Mr. Silver, do you wish to speak to this?
I have nothing further, Your Worship.
And we have the report before us. Does any member of council have questions with regard to this report? Seeing none, I'll look for a motion. And Councillor Townend, seconded by Councillor Buderick. Councillor Townend, do you have comment?
I was actually going to change the motion, if I may, Your Worship.
And, well, let's see if it's agreeable by the seconder.
That's right. There it is. Yeah, June 30th. I was going to, excuse me, Your Worship. I would move to receive the report. That the report from the CAO dated June 15th, 2020 read the appointment of a deputy CAO be received, and that Fire Chief Fred Stevenson be appointed, term ending October 30th, 2022. And I can explain my rationale if I get a seconder.
Thank you. I'll go to the suggested seconder, and that's considered friendly.
Yes, it is.
Thank you. And I'll go back to the mover to speak to it.
Yeah, I wondered about the logic of, if we're going to the trouble of appointing a permanent deputy CAO and it ending just several months before we'll be due for an election. So after June 30th, we'll be soon into a lame duck period, and presumably we would be wanting to replace the deputy CAO after he departs. So I think the dates are a little off. It makes sense to me to just do it for a few more months till the election in October, but I don't know how my colleagues feel about it.
And I will go to the seconder first, then I will ask the CAO for comment on the timing issue.
I agree with those statements. Absolutely, yes.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Silver, the idea of changing those dates, can you comment on it, please?
Through you, Your Worship, I don't have any comment on it. It would seem to make sense. I was working within a 2-year parameter, so that's why I picked the June 30th, 2022 date. But I don't have an issue. I don't see an issue being created by the change that's being suggested.
Thank you. Does any other member of council wish to comment? Councillor Porter.
And I agree with the concept that Councillor Townend is proposing. I'm just wondering about the dates. I know the election is October. Is that what you said? But new council is not sworn in until when? I don't recall.
December. Typically the first week of December.
Could we then extend that to until council's sworn in, so that there's not a period that there's lame duck, no decisions, no deputy?
And would you be suggesting maybe December 31st?
Yes.
I'll go to the mover. Does he accept that as friendly?
Absolutely, that's a good point.
And seconder, do you accept that as friendly? It does. So the motion is changed to the term ending December 31st, 2022. Again, I'll turn back to the CAO if there's any potential conflict that he's aware of. And he says none. Okay. Just want to make sure that there's no glitches. And any other comments with regard to the motion as friendly amended? Seeing none, I turn back to the mover. Comment? Nothing? Then I will call the question. All those in favor? There are none opposed. Motion is carried unanimously, and I express my appreciation for the chief and the CAO for going through that process. Welcome. Moving forward, item 10.2 is the report on the rental of the Discovery Center in Bath. We have a report from Mr. Silver. And Mr. Silver, do you have anything to add to this report at this time?
The report's been circulated Your Worship. The only thing I would add is that I did have a question today from a council member just concerned with the use of it's a, you know, a very treasured building for this purposes because quite often construction trailers aren't used with great care, and this would be taking the place of a construction trailer. And so I responded that in this case, the project is actually replacing the filters in the Bath water plant. So we don't expect that there will be dirt or gravel being used for that project. And in fact, the workers will have to be quite clean when they're in the water plant doing that work. The company itself as well has said that they would return the building to its original state for which they found it, and would cover the floor with whatever covering that we would want to choose for that purpose. That was the only question that I received, and I thought I would just update council on that.
Thank you. Council, do you have any questions with regard to the report at this time? And seeing none, we have a recommendation before us. Is there a motion on the floor, or is there a motion coming to the floor? Deputy?
Move to receive and adopt.
Move to receive and adopt the recommendation. Seconded by Councillor Porter. And Deputy, any further comment?
Just thank you to the CAO for the full response to the question.
Thank you. Seconder, do you have any comment? No? Anyone else? And no, we look forward to that project moving forward. Back to the mover for final. And then I'll call the question. All those in favor? None opposed. Motion is carried. Thank you. Moving forward in the agenda to item 12.1, curbside recycling collection service. We have a report from Ms. O'Neill, and I believe the director is here to speak to it. Ms. McFarland, do you have comments before we get into questions? Anything to add?
Nothing else to add, Your Worship.
Thank you. And council, do we have questions with regard to this report? Seeing none, I will look for a motion. Councillor Porter.
So moved.
Thank you. Seconded by and Councillor Townend. Mover comment? No. Seconder comment? Anyone else? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? And motion is carried. Thank you. Moving to item 13.1. We have a report from Ms. Chapman, the clerk. Right. Chapman, do you have anything to add to this report at this time? Nothing. And council, do we have questions with regard to this report? And seeing none, I look for a motion. Councillor Buderick.
Receive and adopt, please.
Receive and adopt, seconded by Deputy Mayor. Mover, any comments?
No, it's just letting some of our businesses get back to work, and it's a great idea to help them along.
And thank you. Seconder? Nothing? Anyone else? Seeing none, I call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? No. Motion is carried. Thank you. Up next, economic growth and community development, item 14.1. We have a report from Mr. Casemore, and I believe Director Merritt is here to answer any questions. Director, do you have anything to add to the report before council deliberates?
Not at this time, Your Worship.
Thank you. Council, do we have any questions with regard to the report? No one? Then I look for a motion. Anyone? Oh, the hands weren't quite in the screen. I'll go with the Deputy Mayor and seconded by Councillor Porter. And Deputy, any comments?
No.
Seconder? No. Anyone else? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you. Up next, we have a report 14.2. We have a report on DM boat sales zoning amendment report. We have a report from Mr. Casemore. And I believe Mr. Winnicky and Ms. Furness are in the audience prepared to answer any questions. Does council have questions with regard to this report? And Councillor Porter, go ahead.
So the zone in the park, M1-12, land uses that are listed, is that accurate that they are equipment sales and rental, small engine repair and rental, farm equipment and equipment sales and services, motor vehicle repair garage, truck repair and maintenance depot, and building supply center? Is that accurate? That came from the planning rationale, and I'm just wondering if he's quoting correctly.
And it's Mr. Casemore's report. Not sure who would like to answer that question. Ms. Merritt?
Sorry, your worship. I have to defer because of conflict here. So either Andrea was going to speak to that report.
Ms. Furness, are you available?
Yes, through your worship. I'd have to double check the list. That sounds about right. One of them I'm debating. I'd have to do a check of the zoning bylaw, but in general, that sounds like the uses that we're familiar with in the M1-12 zone.
Okay.
I believe it's accurate.
Councillor Porter, any follow-up? Can't hear you, unfortunately.
Sorry, I do have a motion though when you're ready.
Okay, I'll look for other questions. Seeing none, you'd like to go ahead with the motion, Councillor Porter?
Yes, I'll move to receive the report, that the plan, approvals planner report June 12th, re-DM boat sales Inc. zoning amendment recommendation report be received and the application be approved. And further, that the attached bylaw, and I won't read it all, also be approved.
Thank you. So moved. Do I have a seconder for that? Councillor Buderick. Mover, any comment?
I find the uses that are being proposed in this application are very, very similar to the ones that are listed. And I know that when they're listing possible uses, they can't possibly encompass all uses. But what's being proposed is extremely similar to what is in that zone already. And as the planning rationale report identified, is that it is similar. That I having problems finding any kind of difference between the two. So that's why I think it should be approved.
Thank you. Seconder, any comment?
None that she already hasn't covered. Thank you.
Thank you. Other comments? Seeing none. Oh, the clerk has a question.
Just for clarification, that the resolution will be that the bylaw is enacted and passed, not approved, that's enacted and passed.
And council's heard that. The mover and seconder are accepting that wording? Yes, thank you. Any further questions or sorry, any further comments? I think I already went back to the mover. Okay, then I will call the question. All those in favor? 2, 3. Any opposed? And motion is carried. Thank you. And we move to item 14.3, the SJK Property Management Zoning Amendment. We have a report from Mr. Winnicky with options on recommendations as well. And Mr. Winnicky, is there anything to add to this report at this time?
Nothing further, Your Worship, except to acknowledge that we did on Friday receive a letter of objection from the planning consultant for the owner, and that was subsequently circulated to council members, so you've all received it.
Thank you. Right. Council, do we have questions for Mr. Winnicky at this time? Seeing none, I look for a motion. Councillor Buderick,
I move that we should decide to approve the bylaw amendment and the bylaw itself, and this should be approved going forward.
and I'll take that motion that the application be received and council decide that council approve the zoning bylaw amendment application attached bylaw 2020-041 to rezone the lands from light industrial exception M112 to the light industrial exemption 19 be approved.
Yes, thank you, sir.
Thank you. And do we have a seconder for that? Councillor Porter. Mover, comment?
This is one of the few activities that we've got we can really staple in for our young children to do in the community. It would be a travesty to see it to move into Kingston, and we would lose this for an economic opportunity as well as recreational opportunity for the young kids in our community.
Thank you. Seconder? I believe that was Councillor Porter. Any
Yes,
comment?
yeah, I'll just mimic Councillor Buderick's remarks in that we want to keep business in Loyalist Township. We did have the presentation 2 weeks ago. It was a very good presentation. There was a lot of rationale provided as to why it should be there, and the hours that they operate will not interfere with the surrounding businesses, and I believe we should support this application.
Thank you. Anyone else have comment? Seeing none. I will remind council that earlier in this term of office, we did ask for a report from staff to look at changing the zoning restrictions, et cetera, to that park. And we will be looking forward to receiving that, and possibly these exemptions can be no longer required, but we'll get there when we get there. Anyway, back to the mover. Nothing further, then I will call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you. And my computer's being slow. Where are we? 14 SJK. We have 14.4, the Lakeside Ponds Draft Plan of Subdivision Condition Change. We have a report and from Ms. Furness with a recommendation. And does Ms. Furness have anything to add to it at this time, or the director?
No, your worship.
Thank you.
No, your worship, nothing further to add.
Thank you. Do we have any questions from council on this? Seeing none, I look for a motion. Councillor Townend. Can't hear you, sorry.
Sorry, I motion to receive the report and adopt recommendations 1 through 4.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder for that? Councillor Porter. Mover, comment? No? Seconder, comment? No? Anyone else? Seeing none. All right. Mover final? No. I'll call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you. Moving to item 15.1, the unmanned aerial vehicle report from Chief Stevenson. The chief is in the room. Chief, do you have any comments to add to this report at this time?
No, not at this time, your worship.
Thank you. Council, do you have any questions with regards to this report? Seeing none, I look for a motion to receive for information. Councillor Porter, seconded by Councillor Buderick. Councillor Porter, any comments?
Yes, just one. I think it's a great idea. I really look forward to the township having one, especially the emergency services, of course, to have their drone. I myself am a big drone fan. I've been flying them for almost 4 years now. I would make one recommendation though, that part of the training to buy a couple of lower end drones for practice. There's a couple of great ones on the market that I can certainly provide you the names with that are inexpensive, and trust me, they're not easy to fly. I practice weekly with my Phantom, and but I do every so often get my smaller inexpensive drones out, and I tell you, I have had to climb trees to get them out of the trees. So they're not easy to fly. Practice with an inexpensive model is great training.
Excellent advice. Thank you. Seconder, any comment? None? Anyone else? And Deputy, go ahead.
Just kudos on the fundraising. To raise the funds this quickly and been able to take care of this business this quickly is that's a great achievement.
And I absolutely agree and commend the chief and all of his staff in working towards this. It's been a great achievement. I do have actually, I suppose I should have asked it before, but a question with regard to the drone. About a year ago, we had a concern called in that there was possibly someone out in the water in the evening, and the comment was made at the time that if we had a drone with an infrared camera, we would be able to identify that type of situation very, very quickly. Chief, is the drone that we're looking at capable of doing that type of task?
Yes, Your Worship. It has a thermal imaging camera. It also has a fairly large spotlight onto it. And just to give Councillor Porter some information, the flight school starts tomorrow for 3 days, and we're operating 5 different drones that don't belong to us. They're part of the flight school.
Excellent. Thank you all. Back to the mover for final comment. No? Then I'll call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? Fortunately, Councillor Buderick and Councillor Townend seem to be frozen at the moment, so I couldn't see if you put your hands up. Can you verbally acknowledge or indicate your vote, please? Oh, now I can see you moving, Councillor Buderick. Did you put your hand up for that vote? I'm wondering if Councillor Buderick can't hear me at this point. And we can't hear him. Councillor Buderick, can you put your hand up if you can hear me? Councillor Townend, can you hear me?
Yes, I can now. I lost you all there for a minute.
Yes, and we lost you for a minute, so we didn't actually see your vote on that. Were you voting in the affirmative or the negative? That's a yes.
In the affirmative. In the affirmative.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And Councillor Buderick seems to still be having trouble. And Councillor Buderick, can you give me a thumbs up if you can hear me? Does not appear to be able to hear me. And, clerk, no. I go to the clerk. Can you figure out anything? And, yeah, let me try this. And try now, Councillor Buderick. Can you hear us? Nothing's working. And I'll ask that we do have enough votes to pass this, so I will start to move forward, but I will ask the clerk to communicate with or attempt to communicate with Councillor Buderick and get him logged back in.
I'm here now, Your Worship.
Thanks. Thank you, Councillor Townend. I can't see you, but I can hear you. Still waiting on Councillor. Now I can see you and I think hear you. Okay. With that, I can declare the motion carried. Right? I have enough votes for that. And we will proceed to actually the item number 16.1. We still have quorum at the moment. even in the absence of Councillor Buderick, and the clerk is working diligently to get him back. To that end, we have the communication for consideration 16.1, a request to proclaim. Do we have any questions with regard to that request? Deputy Mayor, go ahead.
Yeah, I guess I'll form it in a question. Thank you. This October, it's Breast Cancer Awareness Month as well, if I'm correct. I guess I'm not sure who to direct this to, whether someone on staff, if they can answer it, and maybe they can't. If there's, I'm looking for clarification on having more than one association declared for an entire month, or if I'm looking at, I don't want to confuse the issues when there's already it's basically already spoken for breast awareness.
Thank you. I will, the clerk possibly, the clerk's a little busy with that, with the other issue at the moment. I will certainly concur with the potential confusion of multiple proclamations. No cause is greater than the other, but unless the CAO has the ability to comment on it. Oh, Councillor Buderick is back, and can he hear us? Thumbs up. Yes, he can. Okay. I will turn to Mr. Silver for comment with regard to the Deputy Mayor's question.
Okay.
Oh, sorry.
That's so it's my understanding that council doesn't usually make proclamations. Is that correct? Clerk? The clerk's shaking her head, yes.
They do currently. It's something that we were going to suggest putting on the committee of the whole meeting for discussion. So the current policy for proclamations is that they must all be in writing addressed to the mayor and council.
With that, thank you for that information from the CAO and the clerk. And I appreciate the clerk's efforts to get Mr. Buderick back, and again, appreciate Mr. Buderick being back. So on the issue of proclamations, it is something that council has done previously. We have not done them a lot, certainly. And the CAO confirms that it is technically possible to have overlapping proclamations. And the clerk has comment. This question could be deferred as well. And Councillor Porter.
Move to defer until after our committee of the whole meeting addresses the proclamation issue.
Motion to defer until after the committee of the whole discussion with regard to proclamations, and I'm seeing 3 seconders. So I'll take the deputy, and I will call the question on that deferral. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried to defer. Thank you. Okay. Up next, item number 17.1. We have a notice of motion from Councillor Townend dated June 8th. To bring forward, and at this time, Councillor Townend, would you? I'm assuming you're still moving that. I look for a seconder for the motion. Councillor Porter, and is a seconder? Yes, thank you. I'll go back to the mover for comment.
Yeah, my rationale in putting this forward is, of course, we're in a very unprecedented kind of emergency with COVID-19, and so right now we're in various phases in the province of reopening, but of course we're starting to reopen into a new normal, but many aspects of the emergency remain. primarily the public health emergency remains, which is, of course, COVID-19. The virus isn't going anywhere. So there are particular reasons and rationales for extending the emergencies in the way that other municipalities have, and of course the province has as well. I just want to make sure that the public understand what those reasons are, and that we as the corporation are continuing to communicate with our residents, ideally because we want all residents and citizens of KFL&A to be to have a unified approach. We have had that so far, and the mayors and wardens of the counties and the mayor of the city of Kingston have all collaborated very closely with our medical officer of health to make sure that our messaging is consistent. And so I just want to make sure that the public is as abreast of some of those reasons and rationales as they can be for why we need to continue to extend our municipal state of emergency.
Thank you, Councillor Townend. Councillor Porter, would you like to comment in a second?
Yeah, just that I concur with what Councillor Townend is saying, in as much that we have not seen a report come to council recently. And I think it's just good practice to have it on the council agenda as to why that it's extending, so that we can have that and ensure that's communicated to our constituents in a formalized way.
Thank you. Are there any other comments with regards to this motion? None. None. And I'll go back to the mover for final comment. Nothing. And I will call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you. We move to the consent agenda. And my normal spiel is not attached to the consent agenda. As a matter of expediency, we lump a number of standardized reports together in the consent agenda, communications, etc. If there are any items within the consent agenda that any member of council wishes to extract, we will ask them to do so. But otherwise, all items in the consent agenda are voted on with one vote. But all items are recorded in the minutes individually. Is there anything from council, any member of council that wishes to extract an item from the current consent agenda? Councillor Porter.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. I'd like to extract 21.1 and 21.6.
21.1 and 21.6. Thank you. Is there anyone else that wishes to extract anything from the consent agenda? Seeing none, I'll ask for a motion to approve the consent agenda, and we will deal with the separated items after. And moved by the deputy, seconded by Councillor Porter. And I'll call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried. Then we move to item 21.1. And the Town of Bracebridge Council resolution on the establishment of a municipal financial assistance program to offset the financial impact of COVID. Councillor Porter, go ahead.
I'd like to move to receive and support.
And motion to receive and support. Do I have a seconder for that? Councillor Buderick. Councillor Porter, would you like to speak to it?
Just that I think that we should be asking the other levels of government for some financial assistance within for the municipality, because we have had lost revenues and that's it.
Thank you. Councillor Buderick, comment?
I think we've done a great job keeping our expenses down and things like that, but with the lost revenue, it has been a bit of a burden on our fiscal kind of spreadsheet. So I'd like to see us do what we can as well.
Thank you. Other members of council wish to comment? I will make note of the fact that with this council support, I have previously written to our MP and MPPs with regard to specifically the loss of revenue on the ferry when there was a transit specific availability of funding, and subsequent to that have also written letters to the Prime Minister and the Premier with regard to expanding the ICIP infrastructure program to support municipalities coming out of COVID and to support the economy rebounding coming out of the COVID crisis. So we have done some, but I would also support the resolution coming forward. Councillor Porter, any further comment? No? I'll call the question on 21.1. All those in favor? Any opposed? Councillor Townend, can you hear me? You seem to be frozen again. We do have enough votes to carry this motion, so I will move forward with that, and we have supported. Councillor Townend, you can hear us again? Yes, okay, thank you. Motion is carried. The second item that was extracted was 21.6, I believe. And Councillor Porter, did you wish to speak to it as a separator? Go ahead.
It was more of a question. In the letter, it says, for your reference, enclosed is a copy of the correspondence that was sent from the township of Armour dated April 29th, 2020. Is that attached somewhere? I could not find it. And I would like to support anything to do with high-speed connectivity in rural communities. So without seeing the attachment, I'm flying a little bit blind, but I do want to receive it and support it.
And to the clerk, and it's not showing up right below on my screen currently either. And I have to support what Councillor Porter is indicating. And the clerk has it available to put up on the shared screen for those who would like to see it. Can you do so, please?
Mhm.
And we can see that, thank you. The Council of the Township of Armour supports the letter. It actually doesn't show the letter itself.
Mhm.
Oh, there's the letter. And I'll give council a few minutes to read over that. I'll look to Councillor Porter when there's enough time to read.
Yeah, I got it.
Okay, does anyone else need more time? Not seeing any. Councillor Porter, would you like to make a motion?
Yes, move to receive and support.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder for that? Deputy Mayor. Thank you. Any comments, Councillor Porter?
No, the letter was quite self-explanatory in we, in the rural communities, people take for granted high-speed internet, and in the rural communities, as we have witnessed here tonight, unstable internet and slow internet is problematic for still a lot of communities in rural Ontario.
Absolutely. Thank you. Seconder for that?
No, I agree with everything Councillor Porter has said, and this situation we're in right now, it just highlighted, I guess, and emphasized what everyone already knew, but certainly brought it to the forefront that connectivity is a huge issue.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you. Anyone else wish to comment on the resolution? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? And any opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you. We move to item number 24, members' privilege. Does there anyone have anything to bring forward under members' privilege? And Councillor Townend.
Yeah, I'd just like to extend my congratulations to the back kitchen. They've had some pretty good lineups there for what limited service they're able to provide during these times. You know, it's one of those proud moments to represent Islanders who are very resilient to all kinds of different challenges, and COVID-19 is certainly no exception. So shout out to the back kitchen.
Thank you. Anyone else under member's privilege? I would like to bring up, I was provided with some information with regard to an environmental leadership course being put on by the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, FCM, that will be coming up in the fall. A online course followed by a summation in January in person in Ottawa. The information is available from Ms. Campbell. If any member of council is interested in participating in that, we don't at this time know how many people will be invited to attend, but I would like to extend the invitation out to all members of council showing environmental leadership. So anything else under members' privilege? Seeing none, getting to the right spot. Up next is the upcoming meetings. I can get there. It's a long agenda. Our next meeting would be scheduled for Committee of the Whole, scheduled for July the 6th, followed by a regular council of July the 13th. And just for information for everyone, which brings us to the confirmatory bylaw. I have a motion to approve the confirmatory bylaw. Councillor Porter, seconded by Deputy Mayor. And call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried. And we go to the adjournment. Can I have a motion to adjourn? Councillor Townend, seconded by Councillor Buderick. And before everyone leaves, I wish to say, since we won't have another meeting prior to Canada Day, this Canada Day will be unusual, but I'm sure that we will all enjoy our Canada Day. I hope we will all enjoy our Canada Day, and stay safe, but enjoy and be proud. We are very grateful to be here in Canada. So I thank you all. With that, I'll call the question on the motion to adjourn. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried. We are adjourned. Thank you very much, folks, and have a great time.